Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide. Today we are taking an in-depth review look at the Boox Note 5, one of the latest additions to the Boox series of their 10.3-inch monochromatic eNote devices. Alright, so here we are with the Boox Note 5 finally. So this is the last of the 3 new devices that have been issued by Boox at the end of 2021 for the 2022 season. And this is a 10.3-inch tablet, completely new design for the Note series. Number 4 is skipped in China because I believe somebody said it rhymes with death, so they skip it for bad luck, so they have a Note 5. The design itself, I think, is a very welcome thing because Note had a really aged design that didn't work, so it's about time that the Note series has had a redesign, and it's following the color coordination and basically the approach that the Boox Note Air introduced last year. So I think it looks really beautiful, and it is a very nice kind of looking device. However, it is also a very pricey device at $570 for the bundle with the pen, normal pen, and the regular folio. For that price, really high price, you get the same exact specifications as the Note Air 2, which costs $499 or $500. In that package, you get the 10.3-inch e-ink screen, monochromatic, so no colors. This time it has a Mobius flexible screen. Mobius flexible screen is made with a plastic polymer inside, allowing it to be actually flexible and a little bit lighter than the traditional HD-Carta screen, which is glass and a little bit heavier. The expense of that flexibility is that the image quality is a little bit less clear and a little bit fuzzier than the HD-Carta. And that was usually the main difference between the Note devices and the Note Air, for example. So Note 3 and Note Air 1, the main differences were HD-Carta screen. Note 3 was lighter than Note Air. Also, it had a larger battery, it had more storage, and generally it was like a bit beefier version. But that's not the case here with the Note 5. Note 5 has the exact same internals as the Note Air 2, same smaller battery as well at 3000 milliamps, but it doesn't have an accelerometer, and it has some things that are a little bit kind of weird, which we'll get into. So at the first glance, the redesign is beautiful. It really is a wonderful device to look, and far better than any Note device in their series has been. I still prefer Note Air and Note Air 2, but as far as the Note device series, this is the sexiest looking one and the best build quality that you can actually find. On the other hand, there's the problem of the Note Air 2, which is $70 cheaper than the Note 5, and my main question is, what's with the $70 difference? Why? What is it worth the $70 difference? And that's something that we'll try to kind of explore in this review. So first, let's talk about the build quality of the Note 5 and the design. As I said in the general overview, I think that it's a wonderfully designed device. On the front, you have a flat flush screen, so no indentations, nothing like that. We have a black frame around. They're using a black background here to kind of match the black frame, but yeah, you don't have the inverted option, so this is just a stylistic option that they chose to use a black template. No inverted options for the user interface, which would have been an interesting thing to have. We have an orange Boox logo down there, no button. On the back, we have this kind of blue with orange color, which they introduced with the Note Air 1, and a lovely kind of gummified back surface, which is not fingerprint happy. The fingerprints basically disappear from it, and it's anti-slip. So a really good case here, actually much better than what we have on the Note Air 2 or Note Air 1. I wish Note Air had this kind of a thing on the side, because that one is a little bit slippery. This is way less slippery because it has that surface down there. We have nothing on either of the super slim sides and nicely rounded sides. On the top, we have the power button and the reset switch here, hardware reset, but the power button is lovely indentation here, not to get accidentally pressed, and also looks kind of sexy. And it also doubles as a fingerprint reader, which is also something that the Note Air 2 does not have. On the bottom, we have stereo speakers, and we have a microphone and a USB-C. Overall, I love the design of the Note 5. I think that it feels extremely good in the hand, and it feels like a premium device. It looks like a premium device, it feels like a premium device, but so did the Note Air 2. And in my opinion, I personally prefer the design of the Note Air and the Note Air 2. I think it looks a little bit sexier and it looks a little bit more sleek, and it's ergonomically nicer and better. I personally don't like these extensions here. They were there for a reason when you had the button. Once you don't have a button, that extension naturally should lend itself to be on the side, like it is on the Note Air series, and because it lends itself really good to hold the device with one hand, and then the weight distribution is nicer and it's easier to hold it in your hand. As I said, the build quality is really good, but it's not flawless. And this is the first time that I'm actually seeing this, because, so you can see the reflection here, and you can see the shiny bit is where the film has not been applied, and the matte side is basically where the shiny film or the screen paper-like film has been applied. Now, as I move the device up, you can notice that that has become wider, and that screen film or screen protector has not been applied in a perfectly parallel orientation to device. For $570, that is not something that I expect to see, and that is not something that I am happy with. So that's one thing. That's the first time that I've seen a manufacturing kind of slantness on a device from Boox, and oddly, it's not the same on the other side. It's basically just this side is kind of slanted with this one. And yeah, if for me, I found it actually to be distracting, because the surface underneath it is super shiny, and when it becomes illuminated and when it is wider, you can actually see that super shiny side up there becomes a little bit of a distraction, which is not the case when you have it tiny little sliver. So that thing increasing on the side, not really acceptable for a premium device at this price range. Now, there's another problem as well with the Note 5, and that is the Mobius flexible screen. Normally, Mobius flexible screen, as I said, is flexible, it's plastic, it's lightweight. And the first line of devices of the Note 5 were released with a plastic surface on top to actually allow the benefit of the Mobius flexible screen, right? But apparently there was a production problem, so they quickly re-scrambled, and then the second series of Note 5s that has been shipped out is shipping with the glass panel on top, with a film that has the same film as the Note Air 2. Technically speaking, the same thing that you get on the Note Air 2, which is great because it feels better. It has nicer kind of clarity and all that kind of stuff. But having a glass panel on a Mobius flexible completely destroys the point of having a Mobius flexible screen in the first place, because the whole point of the Mobius flexible is that it's flexible, that it's more durable to accidental punches or knocks and bends and twists and things like that, which the HD Carta is not for. Again, here, like with the Max Lumi 2, we have on paper the making of a really good device, like something that should be a premium device and should be like the flagship of the 10.3, right? Especially with the price. But it's not really that, you know, the build quality, the precision doesn't actually fit. It's a fix on a device, on a design, and basically you get a flawed design to begin with, because you get the worst of both worlds. You get the slightly less quality of an image from a Mobius flexible screen, but you turn it rigid and basically as fragile as an HD Carta is, because you put a glass panel on top. And basically you nullify any weight difference that you would have saved by not using a glass panel on top. And to top it all off, there's no indication whatsoever that I could find anywhere which devices are going to, which devices have a plastic panel, which devices have a glass panel. So there's no indication, there's no like version 2 or from serial number or something like that. That's something that should have been like on their website immediately, like a notification, not something that you dig around and try to find. So not a great start as far as I'm concerned on the Note 5. On the surface of things, it looks like a beautiful design, but the execution is not able to follow that idea. It looks like it, at least. Now, the specifications of Note 5, as I said, are almost identical to the Note Air 2. Basically, same octa-core CPU, same 4 GB of RAM, same 64 GB of same speed internal storage, non-expandable, no micro SD slot, same 3000 milliamp battery, same functionality all across the board. The only differences are the screen, obviously, that you have a flexible Carta, which has been kind of misused because you have a glass panel on top now. So you have the same fragility and a little bit less clarity than on the Note Air, because Note Air uses HD Carta. The other difference is that Note 5 does not have an accelerometer, so you don't have auto rotation, which I think is a bizarre choice for the premium device that this is. So less expensive device actually has more functionality, which is weird. The only thing extra that Note 5 has that Note Air doesn't, Note Air 2 doesn't, is a fingerprint sensor. But whoop-de-doo, I mean, that's really like not worth the $70 price and the whole mess up with the HD Carta and the misalignment thing here that I can see. So yeah, that's basically as far as specifications go. It's a super powerful device, as powerful as Note Air 2, but that's the problem, because it is exactly as powerful as Note Air 2, but it's $70 more expensive, and it doesn't have a really important feature for me, at least for functionality wise, which is that accelerometer. That's something that you end up using quite a lot when you have it, and this device doesn't have it. It seems like a strange omission to have. So the screen itself on the Note 5, as I said, it's a 10.3-inch e-ink Carta Flexible, same resolution as you normally get it, so you get 227 ppi. It's monochromatic and all of the standard things. Main difference is that it is a Mobius flexible screen. So the obvious question is, how does that impact the overall picture quality, clarity, and all of these kinds of things? So I wanted to show it on a very practical example here. This is not Note Air 2, this is my Note Air 1, and it has a screen protector on top that performs a little bit better than the surface that you have here as far as reflectivity goes. But as far as clarity goes, it performs really identically. When I had Note Air 2 and when I compared them, they were pretty much identical for all intents and purposes. I couldn't really see any differences between the two. So image quality wise and clarity, this one performs exactly the same as the Note Air 2, so we can compare it here, and we have the same 3.2 version of the operating system with the same icons and the same screen resolution on both devices. So if you pay attention, the difference is rather small, but you can see this is the Note 5 and this is the Note Air. So you can see at the outlines of the icons a little bit of a difference in clarity and a little bit difference in clarity of the letters themselves and all of these kinds of things. So it's just a little bit less sharp, and the contrast is a little bit less than what you get on the HD Carta screen. Additionally, what I can also see is that the camera, yeah, it is. I think the camera is also able to pick it up, but you can see the difference in brightness as well. Now, they are pretty much exactly at the same place here because I tapped manually to get them exactly at the same spot. But the front light on the Note 5 is not as uniform or not as strong and not as clear as it is on the Note Air. This becomes especially noticeable when you actually pump it all the way up. You can notice that the Note is noticeably kind of weaker front light than the Note Air 2. Now that's not such a big deal in the kind of in the intensity thing, because I'm never going to use it as strong as that, but it's just something to kind of keep in mind. A bigger problem for me is something that I'm not sure if the camera is going to be able to catch, but it's something that's very noticeable for me, and that is the non-uniformity of, I believe this is especially the warm light itself. So for example, if I check out the warm light, I hope that the camera can, no, the shading is kind of too weird, but when you combine them, in real life, I have pretty much perfect uniformity here on the Note Air, and I had the same exact perfect uniformity on the Note Air 2. On the Note 5, I have this kind of it's a little bit more bluish down here. So around this corner I have a bit more bluish, and then the orange tint becomes a little bit more prevalent here in this diagonal here. So it looks like that the orange light is fading away ever so slightly, or that the blue light is stronger in this corner, lower left corner. But when I combine all of these things, for example, and you take a look at the icon here, let's take a look at this icon for the app. So you can see that this one here is Note 5 and this is Note Air. And yes, the differences are most definitely small, but they are there. And when you actually put it all together, it's slightly fuzzier, less sharp image on the Note 5, slightly less contrast on the Note 5, and actually noticeably weaker and noticeably less uniform front light on the Note 5. Yet, it is a more expensive device. And couple the fact that the paper-like screen film that's applied on the Note 5 is supposed to be identical as the one that you get on the Note Air 2. So you're supposed to get the same type of a writing feel as well, so no advantages there either. It's a glass panel, it's not flexible, it's as fragile as Note Air 2 is. And then, yeah, it begs the question, why Note 5? Why is it here? It's a beautiful device, but it has some issues, and its bigger problem so far that I can see is that Note Air 2 is cheaper and better in pretty much every way so far that I'm testing. Even Note Air I like a lot more than this one. So that's basically it. And now let's turn off the front light. Let's connect them first and then turn them off. And okay, so it has the same whiteness as the other one. That's kind of normal, but what I want to compare is the performance of the screen reflectivity. And as I said, it's the same surface that you would get on the Note Air 2. So this is the Note Air, my Note Air, and the screen protector that I have simply performs better than Note Air 2 and the Note 5 as well. So the screen reflectivity is good and the diffusion is good. And it's basically identical as the one that you actually get on the Note Air 2. So that one is okay, but the overall screen performance and just how it looks like and what it does in the front light and everything, not as good as it was on the Note Air 2. Note 5 comes out of the box with the same pen that the Note Air 2 comes with. So this is the new improved Boox standard pen, which I really like how it writes, how it feels, and how it is in the hand. So it's a much better improvement than any of the default pens that Boox devices shipped with beforehand. Has an improved magnet, and it has better pressure sensitivity, and it just feels quite good and is a very, very usable experience out of the box, which is a great thing to have. Now that improved magnet, in the unboxing, now I have to look at the camera, because in real life, this marking here is close to invisible. Only on direct sunlight will you be able to actually see it. In reality, because of the reflections, because of the blue and black, I can hardly see it. You really have to know exactly where to look in reality to actually find it. But the point is that if you hook up your pen to there, then it holds the pen really, really good. Almost as good as the Note Air did. However, the problem that I have here is that on Note Air, it had the orange marking, and it's actually easier to find it. At least that was the early designs. I don't know if they've changed it or not. But what I didn't have on the Note Air was that it's super easy. On the Note 5, it's super easy to snap the pen into the wrong place where it doesn't hold as good as it should. So somehow something has been done differently on the Note 5 than it has been done on the Note Air 2, because on the Note Air 2, whenever I actually snap it, it will just snap exactly where it needs to. This one will easily snap where it doesn't want to or where it shouldn't, and it's simply not LED. Only like 1 out of 3 will actually snap exactly in the place where I want it. I'm not sure what or why that's a thing. All I do know is that when I was snapping the pen on Note Air, I never had to really pay attention to where I'm positioning it. But on the Note 5, I really have to pay attention and to kind of see like, okay, no, this is too weak, so it's a little bit up. Yeah, this one's better, and then I let it go, right? So that's another thing that's different. But the pen itself, really good improvement, and I really like it as it was from before. The battery life of the Note 5 is okay, but it's less than what Note 3 had, which is to be expected because it has a smaller battery. So for all intents and purposes, it has a very, very similar battery life to Note Air 2, but in some respects a little lower, which is kind of strange. Then again, I would have to repeat the tests with for a longer period of time to actually get a degree of accuracy, but let's say that it's very similar battery life like the Note Air. So I do multiple tests. I do a reading test where I let the device auto-flip a document for an hour using certain set of conditions, such as front light at 0, 50 or 100%, with the Wi-Fi on and the Bluetooth off. And the reading performances of the Note 5 were with front light completely turned off, Wi-Fi on, Bluetooth off as well. The Note 5 was spending around 2% of its battery life per hour, which should amount to around 50 hours. Now, the reason why I'm saying should, or approximately, all that kind of stuff, is because it's been flipping pages for just 1 hour. And when I repeated the same test using the front light at 50%, I got also around 2%, which should also mean around 50 hours per charge. Now, the discrepancy here would probably be clarified if I were to let it flip pages for 12 hours, but then again I would need like days and days and days of doing only that test alone, and that's not something that I can do at the moment. So I think it's fair to assume that you will get at least 50 hours with the front light off, but probably more, and with the front light at around 50% you should get around 50 hours of reading time per battery charge. When you put that front light all the way up to maximum 100%, then the Note 5 was spending approximately 6% per hour, which should amount to around 16-17 hours of reading time under those conditions per charge. Now, the writing test is also similar. I write continuously for 1 hour, having the front light set at exactly 30%, because that's something that's very comfortable to use daily. I very, very rarely go past 30% when writing, and during those conditions, it was spending around 10% per hour, which should amount to about 10 hours of writing per charge. But the interesting thing here is when I put the front light all the way off and wrote for another hour continuously, same conditions, everything the same, just the front light completely turned off, it again spend 10% per hour, which should average out to around 10 hours per charge, which is to say that that action of continuously writing is the thing that engages the CPU, RAM, and all of these kinds of things, and those are the major consumers that basically overshadow the front light, as long as the front light is, I assume, underneath 50%. If you were to crank it up all the way to 100, then this number would definitely drop off. But those are not that realistic scenarios. I don't know in which scenarios do we want it to glare at you at maximum while writing. That would be uncomfortable. So in reality, I think that you can expect at around 10 hours of continuous writing time on the Note 5. So yeah, it's okay, but Note 3 battery life was better because Note 3 had a larger battery, and that was one of the points of the Note device. But then again, you get the same battery performance, and in some cases a little better, on the Note Air 2 and the Note Air 1 as well. So there's that to consider as well. So, as I wrote down here as a writing example, the writing experience on the Note 5 is really good. So don't get me wrong, it is really good and better than any Note device that I had before. So Note 5 has, out of the box, the best writing experience of any other Note device. That being said, I expected it to feel exactly the same and perform exactly the same as it did on the Note Air 2, because I don't have any reason to expect it to behave differently. We have the same pen, the same nib, and seemingly what they say is the same screen surface and the same screen film applied on the top as it is applied on the Note Air 2. Yet, regardless of if I used this pen or any other pen or anything like that, when I compare this to what I felt and how it felt and how it performed on the Note Air 2, it is not as good. It is not as pleasant. And also there's this kind of, it's not a squeaky quality when you're writing, which is really weird, but it does make me kind of tingle in a not good way, and it's not exactly like squeaky and chalkboard nails on a chalkboard thing. Not at all. It's just that it's the sound itself is not really the soft, pleasant feel and the cushiony feel of the Note Air 2 that I had, or the Remarkable 2, for example. Here it sounds similar, but it has this kind of strange quality on top of it, which just doesn't sit well with me. And I'm not the only one. I also heard from other people, several other people who expressed the same thing. Now, this might be a extremely subjective and individual thing, but I just wanted to mention that it's something that I reacted to. The other thing that I reacted to as well is that while I expected it to perform exactly the same with the same pen as I explained, the feel of it is also slightly different and not in a good way. So it doesn't feel quite as good, and no, I think good is a bad word to use. It doesn't feel quite as pleasant as the Note Air 2 does, if that makes any sense. The writing feel and the writing performance is very good, but the sound and the actual tactile feel of writing, for whatever reason, it really is inexplainable to me because I don't understand it. It's supposed to be exactly the same, but it's just not as pleasant. And I don't know why that is. I have no explanation for this. I tried to kind of figure it out. I thought that it was maybe a fresh nib, but it doesn't matter. I mean, if I use the Remarkable pen, for example, on it, I have the same sound and feel sensation, right? So it's something that it leads me to believe that it's something with the surface itself, because any pen that I use, I mean, even when I use my regular Samsung pen, and regardless which nib I'm using, that's the thing that I'm using constantly, so I'm used to the feel of it. When I get to this one, it's not a prevalent feel, it's not a dominating note of the writing experience, but it's just present and it's strange. I don't know how to explain it. So moving on from that strangeness, the writing experience is extremely good. So really good, close to Note Air 2, and close to Remarkable 2, but not quite as pleasant. The performance is excellent as well, but I'll run the D.E.S.T.A test and then we'll compare numbers and see. Extended writing is also very pleasant on the device, though I really do prefer the extended side format of the Note Air and the ability to kind of set my palm down here when writing. But that might be a personal preference. I don't know, some people actually prefer one way over the other, but it's just something that I kind of reacted to it. But overall, the writing experience is definitely on the very good to excellent side of things. It's just that strange, unexplainable quality that I have that just makes it not quite as pleasant as the Note Air 2 and the Remarkable 2. I was very interested in the D.E.S.T.A results and how Note 5 will perform, because when I started writing it was nice and fast, but it didn't feel faster than my Note Air 1, and it didn't feel faster than the Note Air 2. Now, since I no longer have Note Air 2 with me, because I sent it onwards, right, to the next reviewers, I didn't have the ability to compare directly, but that's why I have the D.E.S.T.A test and the results there, so that I don't have to rely on subjective impressions, but I have objective measurements. So I measured it out, and basically it confirmed what I was feeling and remembering. Note 5 has a writing latency at around 44 milliseconds, which is not bad at all. That's a really good number, because it's in the low 40s, which is really cool. And my Note Air 1, as a comparison, is 3 milliseconds slower, so at around 47 milliseconds with the OS 3.2. So very similar performance, and that's not a problem. That's what I felt, and that's how it felt. The problem here is again Note Air 2, and it's cheaper. It has the same battery, performs a little bit better with the battery, and the same story continues here, but the difference is not small. Note Air 2 writing latency is at 33 milliseconds, and Note 5's writing latency is at 44. Almost 11 milliseconds of a difference between the two devices that are supposed to be the same, yet Note 5 is more expensive than the Note Air 2. Yet another thing to take into consideration. Functionality-wise, it runs the same Android 11 and the same OS 3.2, which means that you have the preset brushes, all of the colors that you want to choose from, all of the brushes that you want to choose from, templates, layers, everything. Lasso tool, microphone objects to add, the recognition of text, handwriting to text recognition, touch capabilities, turning on touch, turning off touch, having full screen capability, sliding toolbars as well. So everything is exactly the same kind of functionality that you would have, because it's the exact same system. So nothing really new there, so I'm not going to waste time on that. But I just wanted to kind of mention it's exactly the same functionality and the exact same layout, because it's a 10.3-inch format. So same experience, user interface like and functionality like as on the Note Air 2. Reader experience is really good on the Note 5 as well, because because of the software. Exactly the same functionality as on the Note Air 2, so I'm not going to repeat myself and go through all of the functions. This is not a guide, this is a review of the device. And I'm just going to note the most important things here, which is, for me, the ability to format the documents themselves. Every device has the ability to format the EPUBs. That's what the format is for. That's why it exists there. So it's easy to do that, and it does it okay. Sometimes it gets confused, but that's the platform itself. It depends which format, EPUB format you have and how you actually do the formatting. Sometimes it can get confused. But then again, I'm not a huge EPUB user, so I can't really go into too much details there. Probably somebody else will be able to fill out details there better than me, but I do use PDFs constantly and a lot. So, for example, on a 10.3-inch format, even though it's nice, you will run into documents that are of this kind of format, but that's really not a problem on this kind of device, because you can just fit on the side here, expand the margins just a little bit, how much you want. There we go, something like this. And then you have it fitting the screen perfectly, making it much easier to read. Now, one of the things that I really loved and I love using on the Note Air is the accelerometer, where you can just turn it around and it automatically flips to the landscape orientation. Unfortunately, because Note 5 doesn't have accelerometer, you have to manually do that. Not a big deal, but still, you know, for a premium device, you would expect it to have everything that the other devices have, except this one doesn't. So, but it does have software functionality, so when you are in the landscape format, you can actually turn it into a really comfortable experience for reading different types of PDFs and documents themselves. The functionality, the same functionality is here again software-wise, so you can enhance dark colors, you can enhance light color filtering system-wide. System-wide, you also have speed refresh modes, you also have the same ones, normal, speed, A2, and the X mode, so nothing really different than any of the other platforms. Picture quality is not as good and not as clear as you would have it on the Note Air 2, simply because it doesn't have an HD Carta. That being said, it's not bad. It's not something that you can consider being bad, but I am continually comparing it to the Note Air 2 simply because, bizarrely, that's its major competitor, is its cheaper sister, brother, whatever you want to call it, which is seemingly better at everything than the Note 5, including the image quality, because this one is using the Carta, flexible Carta. So yeah, it's not bad, not by any means, but it's not as sharp, not as vivid contrasts, and all of these kinds of things. And you can actually see that when we go to very small text, you need to start actually pumping up the contrast and things like that to get it to be better, which is not a problem. So I can embolden, I can dark color enhance, and then it's easily readable, and then it's actually completely usable. So that's not a problem per se, realistically, but it is something that's kind of needs to be taken into account when comparing this and the Note Air 2, which, as I said, is its main competitor. Performance-wise, when you switch to speed mode, has the same ridiculous speed that Note Air 2 has, and the Nova Air as well has, and now Note Air 1 as well has. So, same performance there, because not a surprise there, because it's the exact same hardware device. It's the exact same device inside, with a couple of things kind of changed, as such as doesn't have an accelerometer. But yeah, overall, really excellent reader functionality, and that is also enhanced furthermore by keeping in mind that Boox devices are Google Play Store devices, which means that you can go to your Play Store, and then you can download Kindle, you can download Kobo, you can download your pocketbook library, or whatever it is that you may want to do. and use your library that way, or download Audible and listen to it via the speakers, or because it's a Bluetooth capable device, via your earphones. But that being said, you can do all of those things again on the Note Air 2 as well, so there's that too. User interface, I don't have much more to add than what I've already mentioned in Leaf review, in the Note Air 2 review, in the Max Lumi 2 review, and when I talked about the issues with the user interface changes and the navigation and everything in the OS 3.2. So Note 5 runs on OS 3.2, which has the same benefits and same shortcomings that any other device that has it will have. Benefits are it's an Android, full-on Android platform, and this one actually runs Android 11, which is excellent. It's a full-on Play Store, Google Play Store able device, which is also excellent, which means that you have tons of possibilities and tons of flexibility, and really a powerhouse of a device and a companion that can actually integrate into almost any workflow that you might have. That being said, all of that functionality is basically all over the place, and the user experience is not the best. Now, I understand that they tried to improve this user experience from before with the user interface with the OS 3.2, and some things have been improved, some things have not been improved, and even if it was improved a little bit, it's still a very steep learning curve for the users to actually get to use this device and to understand its potential. And my problem is that the user experience keeps changing at least once per year, and I am a tech-savvy person. I'm used to Android. I'm using Android since Android 1, and even so, I constantly have an issue to find, like, okay, where's this, where's what? So for example, a very practical example, how do you factory reset the device? Where's system display? Where? How do you do that? Well, here's the thing, you tap on this thing. Really? Like before, we had a little arrow here that was an indication that this is a tappable button, that this is a button that you can actually tap on and it leads somewhere. So at least you had that option, but we no longer have that. So a new user has absolutely zero chance to intuitively understand that, hey, this is what you need to tap if you want to do factory reset or change these things. Maybe it's been intentionally hidden so that users can't do that accidentally. But then again, if somebody buys a device and wants to do a factory reset in order to return it because it doesn't fit them, what are they supposed to do? Read through the whole user manual or try and hunt it down? No, more often than not, I'm the one who actually gets the emails and messages and questions, and I have to help them with that. And this has happened on more than one occasion, well more than one occasion. One of the good things is that now these menus are better and they actually make a little bit more sense, which is a cool thing. So in system display, I can find all of the system display, except that in the system display, you have the option to enable or disable the store. Seriously? What does that have to do anything with system display? That's kind of, those are the things, and those are just one, couple of examples of these things that are a little bit, not a little bit, some are a little bit, some are a lot strange and really difficult to get used to. The worst one for me is the library itself, because you have the scan mode and the directory mode. I prefer the directory mode, but which options you have, filtering, sorting, and access to actually library settings, you have them only when you're in scan mode, but if you switch to a directory mode, those are gone. Like it's really bizarre things like that have been present for a very long time. None of them have been addressed. On the plus side, things that have been addressed and are actually really cool is something that I love is the introduction of this top bar here and the ability to have brush presets and easy accessibility to an eraser, if you will, and slightly easier ability to actually manage your notebooks and basically do all of these things that you might want to do. So, as I said, the user experience of 3.2 definitely has its plus points, for sure, don't get me wrong, but it also has quite a lot of negative points because yeah, enabling Google Play Store forever used to be in the settings, right? And now it has changed to apps and then app settings and then app management, and then you're able to actually do the Google settings. Now I agree, this makes more sense logically. This does make more sense, but there's no guide, there's no indication, there's nothing. Once you update the tablet, it's like, ta-da, there you go, you get a wall of text of updated features, which average user is not going to read. I read through them because I have to, that's part of my job to do these things, right? But an average user is not going to do that. If they just want to enable Play Store, maybe they had a Note 3, right? And they didn't update to 3.2. They buy Note 5. They open it up out of the box and want to enable Play Store. They have previous experience of going there and it's no longer there. So where do I go? What do I do? Then you have to dig around and try to find these things. So the whole platform is full of these things, and these things keep changing every year. And I think that's really frustrating, and I don't understand why can't they find a direction where they want to go. We have so many excellent examples of Android implementations. Like any of the big phone companies, just look from their example and learn from their example, and also learn from Remarkable, for example, and from the Supernote, which give you these tool tips. Once you've upgraded to a new thing and you have a new functionality, you have a little tooltip that actually tells you, hey, this has now changed, and you have to dismiss it, and now you know. But at least you have been notified at the very least. And that's what I think that the user experience overall, not just Note 5, all of the Boox devices that are now on the OS 3.2, and generally that's something that was a negative point for sure since a long time, and it applies to the Note 5 unfortunately as well. Now, additional functionalities, exactly the same as we had on the Note Air 2 and the Max Lumi 2, which means it's a Bluetooth device, so you can hook up Bluetooth speakers, you can hook up Bluetooth headphones, you can hook up Bluetooth keyboard peripherals if you want, and use them to type your documents, and yeah, just use it as a device like that. You also have the USB-C peripheral for the USB OTG, mainly for storage and for keyboard and mouse peripherals. Doesn't really work that well for other things. I never managed to get the HDMI out of the hub that I used on this one, even though it works on every other phone and a proper Android tablet, not so on the Boox tablets themselves. So it's not the hub, it's actually how the OTG has been implemented here. But on the other hand, you do have screen share ability, you have the split screen, system-wide split screen functionality, you have the ability to screen record and share those things that you actually screen record, you have the ability to take a screenshot, so you also have the ability to install any kind of app that you might want and use this as an external screen, if you will. So tons of features, tons of functionalities, again, same as the stuff that you have on the Note Air. So fairly complete experience on that platform, and a true powerhouse of the device, as all of these devices, top tier devices from Boox actually are. It's time to conclude and figure out what the Note 5 is really all about. And as usual, let's start with the cons. Well, the number one con for me for Note 5 would be the kind of a mess that's going on with the design itself. Obviously, Note 5 was supposed to be a device that has a Mobius flexible screen, which it does, but as such, because it's a Mobius flexible screen, logic dictates that it should not have a glass panel on top. It should have something more of a flexible material, something that will utilize the benefit of Mobius flexible, which is in its name. It's flexible, which means it's more durable, less prone to cracking, less prone to damage, etc., etc., at the expense of slightly worse image quality when compared to the HD Carta. However, Note 5, as I mentioned, the first couple of models, they came out with a non-glass panel on top, but that one obviously had a production error, and as far as I've read somewhere, don't hold me to it, but what I've read on several places was that there were problems with that top panel. I don't know exactly what they were, so I'm not going to speculate, right? And I also heard from Boox before, why I didn't even get this in time was there are some production issues with it, right? So what surfaced is that first couple of models had a non-glass panel on top. They had a problem, and then all of the next devices that are coming out basically have a glass panel on top and what is supposed to be the same paper film applied on top that they do on Note Air 2. So that's a rather big con as far as I'm concerned, because it's a system-wide, there's nothing you can do to fix it. And the main benefit of using a panel that offers slightly lower image quality and worse front light performance is now completely eradicated because it has a glass panel. So it kind of makes that decision, it's completely redundant. Like why does then Note 5 have a Mobius flexible screen? It's completely irrelevant. So that's a rather big con as far as I'm concerned. The second con would be lack of an accelerometer. What is the deal with that? Note Air 2 has it, and Note 5 is supposed to be better, right? Because it's $70 more expensive. That's not a small amount. And traditionally, Note is the powerhouse 10.3-inch series, right? Note Air was supposed to be the lighter, smaller one. Note 5, as much as I really love the redesign, and it's lovely to hold, lovely built, everything is very kind of nice, but basically it doesn't offer any advantages when compared to the Note Air 2, and that's a rather big con as well. The front light on the Note 5 is simply not as bright and not as uniform as it is on the Note Air 2, so that's yet another con. A rather small con for me, it's not a big deal, but it is still like an inconsistency and I don't understand why it is, and that's the marking where the magnet is virtually impossible to see in real world scenarios. So if I show it maybe here under these lights, you might be able to find it and see the black marking somewhere around here, which is fine, but in reality I can look at it all I want and there's virtually no way that I can see it. Even under these lights I can maybe hint at it, but under normal lights there's almost no way that I can see it. And that wouldn't have been a problem if the magnet performed the same way as it does on Note Air 2, but for some reason when I actually snap the pen to where it should be, it's like anyone's guess if it's going to be like snap on the magnet when it's really tightly held, or if it's going to snap a little bit higher when it's not as strong. I don't know why that is, but I didn't have that problem on the Note Air 2 at all. Not once did I actually have that as an issue. So that's something that's a little bit unusual. I still don't know why it is like that, but I do know that I do notice that, and that's something that I have experienced on the Note 5. Another con for Boox devices in general, all until it's actually being cleared up and sorted out and clearly communicated, is the lack of transparency regarding the source API for the Linux itself. Are Boox actually modifying the Linux kernel or not? That has to be addressed. If they are modifying it, then the source code has to be released to the people who make a request for it because of the rules regarding the license for the Linux kernel. So those are the terms under which you are allowed to use Linux as a system and to build a device like this. Another con is that, as brilliant as it looks, at least on this unit, I have the imperfection of how this top film, paper film, has been applied. And as I showed before, you have this whole edge where it's actually not applied in a straight way. And that's really not acceptable for the price range and for a top tier device. That's not how it's supposed to be. Another con would be the learning curve that is associated with the Boox platform, and they're just things that are not intuitive, that are kind of mishmashed. They attempted to correct these things with 3.2 update, but they didn't really get there. We still have issues with the library, how it works and what it does, all that kind of thing. So there's a very steep learning curve for the Note 5 as same as it is for pretty much any Boox device. And a final con for the Note 5 would be the price. I cannot justify that price difference between the Note Air 2 and the Note 5. In pretty much all of the aspects, Note Air 2 is a better device. It performs better, it feels better, it's better designed, it has a better build quality, it's cheaper. It does the same thing, it just does it better, and it has an accelerometer and all of these kinds of things. Plus, that paper film, even though they say that it's the same, it doesn't feel the same. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't. It's very similar, but there is a tactile difference, and it's something that's different between these two. I don't know exactly what. I haven't put them to the microscope, so unfortunately I can't see what's different, but I definitely do feel that there is a difference between the two. And yeah, so for the price, I would have expected that the Note 5 is as good as it looks, because it looks brilliant, right? But it's not, and it's definitely not better than the Note Air 2. Alright, now for the pros of the Note 5. Well, first and foremost, the redesign of the Note series is a really welcome thing, and the way it has been redesigned is lovely. I absolutely love the design of this. It feels so modern, it feels so good in the hand. The anti-slip and anti-fingerprint surface on the back, really good. And even though I'm generally not a fan of a portrait format, but if that's what you're looking for, this is one of the nicest looking and feeling portrait devices out there. And I really love the sexy little detail with the indentation here for the button. Yes, it has a function, of course, but it also looks really cool and really modern. The design, the way it looks, not the build stuff and the screen thing and all that kind of stuff that was already mentioned, but just the pure aesthetics of the device, it looks really good. It's gorgeous, it's thin, it's really nice in the hand, it's nice and lightweight, distribution is good. It's a properly good feeling device, and it has to be for the price that you actually have to pay to get a device like this. Another pro would be, even though on this unit the paper film has been applied in a not so proper way, as I mentioned in the cons, but the paper film actually feels really good. And in combination with the pen, which is yet another pro, which I really like how it feels, the writing experience out of the box without needing to do anything. You don't need to apply a screen protector, you don't need to buy a new pen, you don't need to buy a different nib. You just take it out of the box and you start writing. It feels really good on its own, and that would be great if the Note Air 2 didn't feel better and wasn't actually faster than the Note 5. So yes, it's most definitely a pro, but keep in mind that Note Air 2 does feel better and is faster as far as the writing experience goes. Another pro is that it comes out of the box with the Android 11 and all of the power that unlocks. So you have full access to the Google Play Store, you have the extremely powerful and functional Neo Reader, you have extremely powerful note-taking capabilities, and those things, I mean, it's really a powerhouse of a device. Same as Note Air 2 is and Max Lumi 2 are, but then again, yes, that is a pro, but what was exactly wrong with Note Air 2 and why does this one need to, what does it do different? What does it do better? That's the problem. But yeah, okay, let's look at it just in an isolated world. On its own, definitely a pro is the versatility, functionality that you actually get with this, the system-wide split screen, ability to screen record, ability to record audio, ability to use it as an external monitor if you want to, up to a degree, of course. So extremely powerful device. And I'm pretty sure that it has a lot of other pros that maybe I have missed, but I'm having really trouble now to kind of focus on specific pros. What is it that the Note 5 is actually bringing to the table that Note Air 2 isn't bringing to the table? Or what is it that the Note 5 does better than the Note Air 2? And that one is kind of blocking me from seeing all of the pros that maybe this device is bringing to the table. So check out the Note Air 2 conclusion as well, and check out the Pro section, and then you'll see most of the Pro sections there, excluding the writing latency, accelerometer, and the best writing feel, because Note 5 is really, really good, but it's not as good as the Note Air 2 was. So I apologize for that, but I've tried and tried, but I simply can't get over the mental block between the Note 5 and the Note Air 2. So yeah, there's that. So that is a nice segue into the conclusion summary of the Note 5. And I'm just gonna keep it short. I don't know why it exists. I know why Note 3 existed, and the whole point of the Note series of devices was that they are the top tier of a 10.3-inch model, eNote taking models that Boox had to offer. With the introduction of the Note Air series last year, for the first time, Air made sense. It was thinner at the expense of a smaller battery, but it was more flashy, redesigned, and all of these kinds of things. So it was kind of a different product, basically, than the Note series. But still, Note 3 had more RAM, had more storage capabilities, and had the bigger battery, things like that. That's no longer the case. Basically, in the body, inside of the body of this one, you have the Note Air 2 with the worst screen and no accelerometer, and some issues with the overall design and the build because of the off-centered paper film and the whole thing with the surface on the top of it, like why the Mobius screen with a glass panel, which really doesn't make any sense. And to top it all off, you need to pay far more for the Note 5 than you would for the Note Air 2. And the Note 5 doesn't write as fast. It's really, really good and really fast, but it's not as fast as Note Air 2, and it doesn't feel as good as the Note Air 2, using the same pens and same conditions and all these kind of things. So I think that on its own, if it was just Note 5 and Note Air 2 didn't exist, this would be a really, really good device. No question about it. It would be pricey, but it would be really good. But the main problem that the Note 5 has is the Note Air 2. And Note Air 2 is simply a better device in every single respect that you take a look at than the Note 5. And as such, I don't understand it. I really don't understand the point of the Note 5. So that's at least how I see it, and that was my impression of reviewing and testing out the Boox Note 5. I hope you liked the video and that you found it informative and useful. If you did, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell down below to get notified when new videos come out from mydeepguide. Also, please remember to check out, also in the description down below, you will find a link to the playlist of videos that I have for my daily organizer, and also you'll find a link to the shop, mydeepguide shop, to where you can actually find the My Daily Organizer. And what is My Daily Organizer? Well, it's a hyperlinked PDF document that can be used on eNote devices, and it's a yearly, quarterly, weekly, monthly, daily organizer, and a little bit more than that. And when you actually check out the videos, you will see if this is a product that can help you organize your work or personal life or not. So it has helped a lot of people so far, and that's something that I'm super happy about. So it might be something that can help you out too. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!